Welcome to Self-Perfected.
Okay, Kim, that you have to say that again because that should be the meme going around right now.
I don't think it's going to land now because I have to explain the context.
No. You don't have to explain any context.
Mitch was spraying something on the screen, and I was like, "What are you trying to do? Like a Will Smith and erase our memories?" Right? And then I was like, "Man, I bet he wishes he had one of those devices now."
Exactly. Okay, that's gonna be the next thing because I see on YouTube. It's not even something that I want to watch. But every other video is something with like Will Smith, like a 5-second clip or something of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, but in different like environments, like in claymation and all this other stuff, right? I think that's going to be the next one going around. It's like I bet Will Smith wishes he had one of these now.
That's like so fucked because we're all just the media would have you believe that we're all focused on that. Meanwhile, there's like a fertilizer shortage and shit.
Yeah, I saw that. What's going on with that?
Apparently, Russia is one of the biggest exporters of fertilizer, and now we're at this war.
Apparently, cows stopped shitting all of a sudden.
Yeah,
good thing I literally just finished buying all the stuff for the garden, just like a couple of days ago.
Dude, yeah. I saw that post with all those bags of soil in the bed of your trailer.
Hold on. That was like the last 5%.
Dude, I looked at that post. I was like, that is an expensive trailer right there.
That was like, the last 5%.
I know how much soil costs.
How much do you think that soil costs? What would you guess?
I would guess $15 a bag.
I guess.
What would you guess the whole trailer of
probably like 20 a bag?
That whole trailer.
It's like that amount. Like what is your
from that picture that you had?
Yeah.
Oh, easily 600.
Yeah, that was like $230.
Oh, sick.
And that's with manure. Yeah, like that black cow manure.
Oh shit! What? How'd you get that?
Lowe's is running a special. It's on their flyer for buy 3 get 3.
This episode brought to you by
Russia.
And everyone's like, "Wow, you're so good at saving money on soil." I'm like, "Yeah, I also had like $3,000 worth of mulch and fucking like organic composted soil dumped on my back property as well, so I'm not really saving any money on soil, guys." So
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna gloss over this that Russia just produces everything.
Yeah, what's up with that?
It seems like
what was it we were watching yesterday, Christine? We were watching some we found this funny, hilarious guy who's like a Mexican guy. He's like he talks about fighting. And he's like Mexican martial arts, MMA, right? Yeah. But like the jokes that he makes are hilarious to me because he has this like Mexican Hispanic accent where he's like mispronouncing a lot of things, but it lands so perfectly because it sounds like something like someone fresh to America would say, you know?
Okay.
But one of the things he was commenting on was like, he was doing a review of this Russian UFC version of UFC called like Elite Fighter Champion. I don't know, but it's hilarious because they have literally like the most unqualified people in the ring fighting each other. So like there's a big, like overweight, obese 600-pound woman in the ring with two guys who are like, one is a grandpa and the other one looks like he makes this joke. He's like, I was gonna call him the low budget 6'9", but upon further inspection, it looks like they have the same budget. But anyway, he made this joke of like, Russians happen to do everything. And how come every movie we see, it's a Russian hacker? And he was just making this point. And Christine's like, oh yeah, that's like predictive programming right there off the bat. And so,
that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Wow. We should place bets on when the cyber pandemic is going to happen.
But you see how it also exposes a lot of points that it's like people weren't aware of, like how dependent the world is on Russia. Or at least we are, right? Yeah. You wouldn't think so, right?
I mean, the entire Western world seems to be very heavily dependent on Russia. Like just how much fuel is being used.
I mean, it's a huge country.
Yeah. And like Tim Pool was making a point in one of his things. They could start a war. Well, I mean, they already have, but they could easily turn Europe into a tailspin just by cutting off all of their fuel. And that's like, they can force their way to do whatever they want if they just say, hey, we're cutting off your fuel tomorrow. It's done, you know?
Yeah.
But something else that was relevant to that, I'll come back to later because I forgot it. So I'll come back.
Circle back. I was talking. Oh, go ahead, Mitch.
Well, Jessica and I, in a week, we're about to get these like probably 26 chickens and this sweet coop. And
Just
then
26.
there's like 5 guineas.
Oh, what kind of
And
coupe? Is it
then
like a Lexus or Ferrari? What kind of coupe are you
Mini
getting?
Cooper.
No, they're not mini.
No,
I don't know how we're gonna move.
It's pronounced coup.
Coup. Oh yeah, we're gonna do a coup with these chickens.
Oh, you're
And
gonna
then
have
we're
a
gonna
coup,
get
a
fish free
Minnesota
turkey.
coup.
Yeah, exactly. And
That
so
sounds like
that's
some kind of weird
exciting.
sexual thing. A Minnesota
Yeah.
coup.
So now we're set, right? Because then we're ready, right? We're ready for anything. Because then we got chicken eggs, we got manure, and I'll tell you the third later.
Okay, great, because I remembered what I was gonna say.
Okay,
Perfect.
awesome.
Yeah, Christine and I watched Free Guy last night. Pretty.
Oh, that movie's
What?
kind of funny.
I don't know
Yeah.
about that.
It's
It's kind of funny.
it's kind of cool. The concept is cool. It's about basically like an NPC coming to life,
Oh, okay.
but it really highlights.
So it's about a normal person.
it's about normal people.
Okay, if
Got
anyone
it.
doesn't know what NPC is, it's non-playable character in like a
That's right.
video game. You're going.
I thought it was
through a level.
non-fungible token or something.
No, that's-
an NFT that comes to life. That's a great movie idea. We should start that movie.
How valuable am I? Wait, but someone just took a screenshot of me and it looks exactly like me. How come
What
they're
happens
not
if you do
valuable?
that? If you take a screenshot of an NFT, like seriously, black helicopters like start like hovering outside your window.
I tried.
Don't do it.
I deleted it right away after that. But yeah, so
Somebody was telling me about NFTs and they were like, oh, in like, like whenever you post a picture of Max, like, no one can download that or share it without paying you something. And I'm like, who the fuck is going to pay me to share a picture of my son? Like, why would I give a shit about that? Like, what?
That sounds a little weird.
It's like actually a way where no.
Yeah,
it was like he was trying to make an example because like something I post about a lot, right? And I'm like thinking, why would anyone share my pictures then? Like they're gonna share a picture of me like with a fish, like and they have to pay me for it. What the fuck would they pay me for? So like now my whole life is gonna be about making pictures about my life that are so good people want to share them. Like it's like trying to turn everybody into some kind of creative person or something, and it's like no one gives.
Isn't
a
that
shit.
what in Snow Crash, that guy Hero, like his it's in like the 3rd chapter when they introduce him, that he made, or that he like has a bunch of files on the internet and occasionally someone will use it and then he gets money for it, but he's still like fucking broke living in a.
Man, I don't remember that. Of course, it was like 10 years ago before when I read that book, but man, that's
Oh, you should read it again. They redid the whole book.
The forward is now by Klaus Schwab.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, he's actually Russian as well.
Yeah, he probably is.
But the non-player character part, the highlight of that is it really brought to life this point of, because he's at the main character who's supposed to be the non-player character is at a coffee shop, and all of a sudden he wants a cappuccino, and he's like, he asks, I would like to try a cappuccino, and all the other non-player characters are like, but you get a 2 cream coffee with sugar. He's like, yeah, but I would like to try a cappuccino. You get a 2 cream coffee with sugar. And like everybody's like turning to him in the cafe and they're like, what is he doing? And then like one of the police officers like, somebody's about to get shot. And he's like, whoa, I'm just asking for a cappuccino. I just want to try something new. They're like, but you get a 2 cream coffee with sugar. And then like a tank rolls up outside and starts aiming at him. He turns around and he's like, I want the 2 cream coffee with sugar. And they're like, oh. And the tank just rolls away. And like, it's funny because that's, I think what it feels like the first time you try to step out of like your pattern. The first time you try to step out of your pattern, it's like everything seems to be turning in on you. Everybody's looking at you, and it's like, if I just go along with this, I won't get hurt. Okay, I'll go along. I'm sorry I even tried to step out of this, all of that. And I feel like you were making this point, everybody is going along with their pattern. Everybody is acting as an NPC. And what's interesting about that is, I don't know, some people like are aware that others are NPCs, but they're not aware that they themselves are an NPC. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, an NPC means that you are not the main character. You're just a background, and you have like a script that you follow. And so you're just there to support the main character's quest or experience of the game or whatever. And so it's interesting because who's writing, who's actually writing the script or experiencing the script of the benefit of the world that we live in. You see what I mean? Like there's a few people who primarily benefit, and everybody else is in some way just following in their point. And I was going to tell you guys about this guy I talked to. It's actually a parent that we're talking to about TechnoTutor, and he came over to the house recently, and I was just kind of getting to know him a little bit better. And he does like trading, and I don't know exactly. He told me some of the things, but it's like metals and different things.
Is this the guy who had the kid who ended up living by you?
Yeah, they live by me. And anyways, there's this context, but the point is he was telling me about trading, right? And we were talking about how the markets are manipulated. And, like he was telling me about, what was it? It was,
lithium.
No, it wasn't lithium. I think it was platinum, or it was some resource, like basic resource. And all the guys who are like the top players in it, who know each other, it was like the price had gone up, and then they deliberately drove the price down. And then it was like, but they were short selling their own product, and they were deliberately driving it down. So because he was saying like they had made all this money on it. And so anyways, I don't even know all the details, but the point was, I was just picking up on how manipulated the point is. And I was just looking at how much of the markets is based on somebody just trying to make money, and people being involved who don't have anything to do with the actual thing being created or being used. It's just betting on stuff, and how much of things are moving based on that, and how even the people who are participating in like creating the stuff, supplying it, they're also, because that's why he told me that story. Because I was like, what percentage would you say is just manipulation, and what's actually people, okay, this it has a need, and that's why it's being sold, and like that's why it's moving, and that's why the price is changing. And he was like showing me how even the people who are involved in the production of the thing, they'll still do the manipulations to make money on top of money, and it's not even involved in the actual supply or demand or anything. And I'm just like, so like think about it, like you're just the background character to all of that. Because you go to your job, you go to Walmart, and how much of Walmart is being influenced by the price of this and the price of that and this, and and all these different things, and what you see at the store is based on what somebody's trying to push out or whatever. And there's so very little of what people are doing that is based in actually directing reality. It's just like being in the background, like being a literal victim to it. It's like, if this is available, then you get access to it. If it's not, it's not. You don't have any say over it. And it's like, if you have a job, think about it. If you have a job, you're an NPC. You know what I mean? I don't mean if you're working and building a business. I mean, if you have a job, because you're just going along with someone else's plan. Like, and think about it. If you're on your quest, right, and the NPC character dies, you don't care. You have another one. It's like irrelevant. But if the hero dies, and it's like the game's over, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you get fired at your job, they just replace you with somebody else. They don't care, you know? And yet everyone thinks that they're the fucking hero of the thing. When all really that is just, it's just a bullshit. It's all just made up bullshit, self-image stuff. And like that point you're making about being able to, or that resistance you have to changing. I remember a long time ago when I was really starting to look at, okay, what am I going to do with my life? This is after I had met Bernard, but being influenced by, you know, what he was saying. And I'm like, this point came up within me of like, I can't just suddenly be, I mean, you could look at it in any number of ways. I can't just suddenly not accept something like that. That's bullshit, because that's out of character for me. And the other person may not accept that. They may not, like, they're not going to just, like, if I just suddenly start talking about how, hey, we can make a difference in this world, that's out of character. No one's going to buy that. No one's going to listen to me. They're going to know that you don't have a right. And it wasn't even the point of they're not going to listen to me. It was the point of like, the feeling of I don't have a right to suddenly change and have a different character.
Yeah.
Because that's not the character other people see me as. If I'm suddenly like directive and bold and this and that, like, that's not what people are expecting. And it wasn't even the point of they're going to react a certain way. It was just the program of that's not what they're expecting me to be. It's like really subtle. And it wasn't even based on any fear of anything happening. It was just like, that's not what I'm supposed to do. And this program came up. And so I know that's in everybody.
Yeah. Would you say that's not a fear?
No, I just meant it wasn't based on a specific fear of something happening.
Okay.
It was just literally the point of, but this would be out of character for how other people expect me to act.
Yeah.
And I'm not even, it's not that I wasn't worried, but it wasn't even tied to the point of, oh, I'm worried that they might do something. It was just, I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
It was the policeman in the head saying to me, you can't go outside of what other their image of you is. You can't suddenly be a leader. You can't suddenly be that person that's like, hey, this is what matters, you know, and talk about things that matter, because that's not what it's expected of you.
Right.
You know, so I know that happens in big ways. It happens in small ways, you know, even just, you know, if you look at it in relationships, right? Well, if I'm suddenly going to be in my relationship not accepting anything less than what's best for myself or the other person, I'm not allowed to do that. Like, that's not the relationship. So it's like this, it's like, think about it. It's not even you making the decisions. There's mathematics that's making the decisions, and it's talking to you.
Oh shit.
You see what I mean? It's like I'm calling it mathematics. It's a program.
Yeah,
but when you think about it, like, it's mathematics, meaning it's like there's a program based on math that's running inside of you. And it's like, no, that doesn't make this equation balance the way we want it to balance so that you stay in line with the system the way it is and so forth. Suddenly, all of that math, it produces these words in your head that's like, oh, you know, you shouldn't say that, or you can't do that, or this or that. But it's not really you talking. So a person will identify with that image or that character or that voice that's talking to them. But it's not you talking. It's literally a program running that's talking to you, but in your own voice. So you think it's you, and you just easily identify with it. So you go along with it.
So that programming, right? For people who don't see this clearly, it's like that is a sum total of all the reactions and all the acceptances and allowances that you've had from your first 7 years, even from your parents and their parents and so on and so forth. It's like that stuff got embedded into us, especially when we had our natural learning ability wide open. So ages, 0 to 5, 0 to 7. And then that's what's literally inside you then resonating. And that's why it feels like you're that character in that movie where you're like, oh, I want a cappuccino today, and then a fucking tank rolls up. It's like, there's no tank. Don't worry. It's just in your mind. But the enslavement program really, two words that it feels like when you're bumping up against the edge of it is fear and resistance. That's at least what I've seen. Is it's like you feel like you're gonna fucking die, or you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. I can think of 5 justifiable reasons why I shouldn't do it. But then over time you learn, oh, that's that fucking program again. Okay, breathe. What would be best? Then you can also then factor in. You can also factor in then your programming and just common sense. So then you can see it. Well, that's where self-honesty comes in. So with the self-honesty, it's like you can see the program a bit more and go, okay, I know I feel like I want to snooze again, or I want to sleep in, or I want to just go watch TV. But deep down, I know I got to actually go do this thing that's going to feel like shit. Then you go do it, and usually it ends up not being as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But then you break through that, and then you start building a track record within yourself of, oh, I can actually go beyond. And that is like something very interesting, because many people go through their lives never even challenging that. But when you can do that, you become actually like you're here, you're stable, you're grounded, and then you can be that support for other people.
There's this stability that you get from doing that. Maybe we can talk about that, because it's like, I think that's the one part that everybody truly wants, but they can't even relate to, because they think they want something else. Like, no, what does the average 20-year-old guy think he wants?
Yeah, he wants like hot girlfriend, travel the world, Lamborghini, Ferrari, private jet,
Perfect.
all that shit.
Exactly, right? Like, that's what you think you want.
He thinks
And
he
I'm
wants
not,
it.
Right.
It's
And
like,
I'm not
that's
saying you
actually what he
can't
fucking
have
wants.
those things, but in in themselves, like there are people who have those things and they're still not happy.
Yeah, they're
Like,
fucking
they have all
nervous
that and they
wreck.
take it for granted. I mean, imagine some kid who grows up in Dubai and is
Mhm.
like the son of the prince or whatever, and like has all that shit like that. And they're just still just like you. Like, they're no different. They
Right.
just have that stuff. So that's not the answer. Doesn't mean that we should then be like, oh, the answer is to remove all your possessions or some bullshit like that, because that's not going to allow you to change the system. Okay. But
Although
what's
you should remove your possessions, but not
your
those possessions.
demonic possessions. Yes.
Exactly.
But let's say your goal is to stand up within principles and change the system. Okay. Then to do that, you're going to have to become very wealthy, as we've talked about many times, but you're also going to have to become very stable. Because if you have to choose, if suddenly, okay, I'm not going to choose the 2 cream coffee, I have to choose the cappuccino today because that's actually what's best. And then you see the tank and then you're like, oh, nope, it's fine. I'll take the cream latte or the coffee or whatever. Like, if you're not stable, then you'll just put it back. But like Mitch was saying, it's not real. I mean, I'm sure there was that one guy who literally was like in the Ukraine the day of the invasion, who was like in the coffee shop, and he was like, you know what? Today, I'm going to have that cappuccino. And literally a tank comes by and he's like, oh, fuck. So that may actually have happened in real life. But most of the time, it's not a real tank. It's just it's the program making you feel the fear as if the tank is there.
Yeah.
Now,
So the
here's
tank
what's
isn't
interesting.
there, but you feel it's there. What?
But because, right, this major important point, which some people will definitely react to, is if you have that fear within you, you're also creating it. And so right now, that tank, well, if you're in Ukraine, right, or other parts of the world where there's active war going on, then yeah, there's a real fucking tank. But guess what? Right now, it may feel like a tank inside you, but if you don't do something about it, it will turn into something that is like that in your life. It's like, we are on track, if not already in World War III.
Yeah.
We might get deplatformed for even saying that. But that should just show you that shit is hitting the fan. It's been hitting the fan for a minute. And now it's rolling up into a neighborhood near you. And unless you step up and join us to change the system, it's collapsing. Like, literally, it's collapsing. The money system. Yeah, all that. Supply chain.
What it ends in is everybody in a virtual prison where you can't leave your house and you can't even turn it off. That's what it ends in. So the war, it's like everybody ends up in the concentration camp. That's essentially what it is, right? And I mean, could it go to like nuclear bombs and all that stuff? I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I would prefer that it doesn't, go either way. But there was a point that Bernard made in one of his videos. I'm trying to remember which it was. I think it was a video, or maybe it was a blog. I can't remember. But this point about how everyone, like, maybe it was one that one of you shared, Drake. I can't remember. Somebody shared this recently. I think it was a blog talking about apocalypse and so forth, and World War III, or maybe it was just apocalypse, but saying how it's stemming from the fear within everybody. It was like the fear of the man who's afraid, his kid's going to die in a car accident, the fear of the mother who's afraid of this or whatever, like all these little fears that we all have. And therefore we make decisions and so forth based on those fears. Mm-hmm. And, I was thinking about this too, like, because I saw an ad, it was a billboard when I was driving the other day, and it said, it was a security company, and it was something like, I can't remember what the exact wording was, but it was like, no more fear, or like have no more fear, or eliminate fear, or it was something along those lines. Obviously implying that implying that, like if you have the security system, you've eliminated the fear. Essentially the point. But think about it. It doesn't eliminate the fear. Like, it's actually a fear-based decision. So getting a security system in your house does not eliminate the fear. You're doing it because you have the fear.
Yeah.
So the solution you're implementing is based on fear. It's an example of fear.
Right.
So you're constantly in fear. That's why you have the security system. It doesn't eliminate the fear.
Right.
The actual elimination of the fear would be to create a system in a world where there's no reason to fear anybody, because why the fuck would anybody steal anything? Because everyone has the best of what they need. They're educated properly. They were brought up properly. They don't see any reason to manipulate somebody. And anybody who would be so like, okay, it'd be like if you were at a party and someone just like took off their pants and like started swinging their dick around. Everybody'd be like, what are you doing? I mean, maybe if you're at one of these DC parties that Madison Cawthorn was talking about, they'd be like, yeah, that's come on. But I'm saying, a normal party, right? And people would be like, what are you doing? Or like if you're at Thanksgiving dinner, right? And they're like, let's carve the turkey, and you just whip out your cock. Like, people would be like, what are you doing? Why? Like, that's how it would be if somebody stole something in a world where we have equal money system, where all life is valued equally. Everyone would be like, what are you doing, bro? Like, stop.
Yeah.
But what would there be to steal? It'd be like, why would you steal Mitch's laptop? You have one. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Well, I'm going to sell it because I'm going to sell his passwords. Like, for what reason?
Yeah. It'd be like some weird emotional spiteful shit that.
Right. And then there's clearly something not right. Like, maybe like a tree fell near your house when you were born, so it made this loud noise and it fucked with you psychologically or something. But they'd be like, okay, let's pinpoint where that issue is. Let's do the self-forgiveness. Do the points. Okay, let's support that person. You wouldn't be like, well, we're gonna lock you up with a bunch of other people who steal, so you can learn how to steal better or something. Like, what?
Yo, I was just thinking when you were talking about the billboard or whatever that was with the security systems, and it's like, have no more fear and whatever. I was thinking, how great would it be if we had our own like fact check system, but it was just like common sense. It'd be like fact check common sense, and then it'd be like, actually having a security system, partial truth. Having a security system will not actually remove your fear. And it's like a whole fucking thing, actually explaining what's actually going on, like a true fact check.
Common sense check. Common sense check.
Yeah, exactly.
Call it. That's cool.
That'd be awesome. We'll have to create that. Maybe Max will code that.
So, actually, that reminds me, kind of a tangent. Last night, it was just so interesting because I was sitting on the couch. This was probably like 9:00 at night. And for like an hour, both kids, Max was sitting at the kitchen table, or the dining room table rather, and Sydney was sitting kind of like next to me on the couch, or she was standing. She was kneeling on the ground, but she was playing with stuff on the couch. They were just like playing with their circuits, like snap circuits, like I swear it was an hour. And then after a certain point, Seneca's like sitting there talking about what she's doing. She's like, oh, and then I'm going to use this. And she's like talking to herself, but out loud, right? And at a certain point, like Max brings one over, and then she's trying to do something, and he's showing her how to do it. And then like we're all playing together, and then we're like doing all this fun stuff, like playing with the circuits. And then there's this, I can tell when they're with their physical body behavior, body language behavior, like when they're getting tired. right? And so like Max like did something, I forget what it was, but I was like, okay, they're tired. I was like, all right, guys, let's pack everything up, put it away for today, and we're gonna go to bed now. Go to your rooms, okay? Go to your room, and we'll read. And then like they just were like, okay, and they started packing everything up, and then we went to the bedroom, and then they got in their beds, and what I do generally is I read a book out loud. I sit like we have like kind of like a love seat, not a love seat. What are those single cushion seats called?
Not a
It's not a love seat.
recliner, but like
No, but it's like a little chair that's
Yeah.
like one, not a love
Chair.
seat, but like half of that. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a chair,
Okay.
but it's like a big comfy one, right?
Okay, yeah.
But it's not a recliner. I just want to make sure it's not a recliner. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Christine, you know what this is called?
I always thought you were talking about a beanbag, but
No, no.
That's
That's
Like
it.
an
You've been
actual-
talking about a beanbag this whole
an
time.
actual,
single couch,
an actual
chair.
furnished chair that's furnished like a couch, but it's one seat.
Mhm.
It's got to be a name for that. I'm thinking love seat, but that's like two seats.
Love chair.
No, single sofa. That's what's coming up. Single sofa.
I guess it can't be a love seat because
No,
that's like
because
two
love
people.
for two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love is for two.
What about
Is it
self-love?
though anymore? Yeah, self-love seat.
We should make that. Let's make a shirt out of that.
Let's
A
not.
chaise lounge. Is it
Let's make
chaise?
a single sofa out of that.
Hold on, aren't you from like Canada? You should know how to pronounce that.
chaise lounge.
You still
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know how to say
I
it.
don't
We
know.
don't speak French in this
Wait,
house.
what is it? How do you spell this?
CHAISE.
I'm not even gonna pretend I know how to say that.
I don't know.
So
Oh, Chase. That's what it is. Chase.
I'm going with Chase. I think that sounds right. Chase.
Okay, guys.
I think in French you pronounce the consonants if there's vowels after it,
Yes.
and if there aren't, you don't pronounce the consonants.
Yes, sometimes.
It's kind of like phonics. It makes no fucking sense.
That's right. Those are the ones. Yeah.
So where was I? So, anyways, I'm on my
Caroline
Chase
says I
lounge.
said it right, by the way.
What did you say? What is it?
Caroline, the French speaker, says I said
Okay.
it correctly.
What is
How do you
it?
say it?
Chaise.
Chez.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but she's from Quebec, so I feel like
it doesn't count. It's not
that's
real
like
French.
that's like the American version of English.
It's the best version.
True. Maybe that's true. Yeah. Anyways,
1 point for Caroline.
so I'm sitting on my chaise lounge. Did I say it right, Caroline? Chaise?
Drake, they want to know
uh,
what you're eating, by the way.
Chaise sounds better. They want to know
They
what
wanna
Chase
know what
is
I'm
so
eating?
American.
Chase. I'm saying Chase.
Yeah, Drake.
I'll say it with a Z, Chase.
Chaise.
Well, no, with a Z, that's a house. That's Shay.
Che
Isn't it?
Guevara.
That's it.
Caroline says you
It's
said
a-
it correctly.
Chase. Okay.
All right.
Cool. All right. So it's a Chase lounge. And basically, I'm sitting there and I'm reading this. Oh, great book, by the way. Anybody? It's called The End of Eternity by Isaac Asimov. Really cool book. It's really good. I'm like basically halfway through it and it's really good. So I'm reading that out loud. And that's what I've been doing. And then, they'll usually just fall asleep to me reading now. And last night it was really cool because Max was pretty clearly tired. So he's just like under his covers, like basically falling asleep. And Seneca is sitting on her bed and she's got one of those Dick and Jane books. Right. And she's sitting there and like she read the whole thing. Like they're thick, like, for like a kid's book. It's not like a typical kid's book, which is like 10, 12, 20 pages. It's like 80 pages long. Right. And she's sitting there. It was so cute. She's like sitting there. She's like, no, Dick, get down. Let Spot get, whatever. I'm just making it up, like whatever it is. And she's like sitting there with her finger, like reading each word. Right. And there's one part where she like stops and she's like, and she looks up at me and I'm like, what's up? She goes, what is this word? And I was like, I don't know. So I went over there and I told her what it was. She's like, okay. And then she like kept going because I guess it's a word she hasn't done in Technotutor yet. But I mean, that went on for a while. Like she read the whole thing. And then at a certain point, like Max came over and they like, he got her like little, like she has like multiple comforters and then like a throw blanket on there. Right. So he had a throw blanket around them. And she was like, you read, Max. And he's like, okay. So he's like reading out loud. And then he's like, I don't want to read out loud anymore. So then she starts reading out loud. Right. it's just really cool because I was thinking back as I'm watching them about, like this whole unschooling thing that people talk about, and like that interaction I had with that unschool person. And I was just realizing like unschool is like a fucking psyop, because like they would see, imagine like your filter is so severe that you see that and you're like, oh, these kids are abused.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because they're 3 years old and they're reading, they were forced to do that, and like you've abused them. And it's like, and like you guys have been around the kids, you know what they're like and how we
They're
treat
like
them
the
and
happiest
everything.
kids I've ever seen.
And it's like they just don't understand that you can literally, the same thing you're already doing by speaking out loud and them absorbing that automatic, just randomly, you're just doing the same thing. Well, I'm not gonna say how you do it, but it's using the same point. That's what technotutor is. It's not unnatural.
Yeah.
In fact, what's unnatural is learning phonics and learning whole language, and like going to school is fucking, I get that. Like I get the whole unschooling thing where it's like school is not natural. Yeah, no shit. But neither is using a phone. Like imagine being on YouTube being like, you can't do it, it's unnatural. And it's like, you're on the fucking internet. You think that just sprang forth out of nowhere?
Like, are you saying you don't let your kids on the internet? You don't let them on YouTube? You don't let them watch National Geographic, which I know is like what half these unschooling parents do. They just like sit them in front of National Geographic all day. And they're like,
think that's
they get
education.
to choose. They get to choose what they want. Like, what?
He chose his gender.
Exactly.
Oh God.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. Because like just what that is morphing into is unlike anything we've ever seen before on the planet, which is pretty badass.
Oh, dude! And when they were playing with the circuits last night, I'm just sitting there just watching them, right? And Seneca is like doing something, and she like pushes the switch, and nothing happens. And she goes, "Oh, maybe the diode needs to be turned around." And she takes the diode and changes the orientation of it, and then flips it, and it turns on. She goes, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Holy shit, man!" She's 3.5, and she knew like I need to change the direction of the diode. Which,
Dude,
how
that's
many
so
adults
cool.
would even know that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that until my kids started learning about circuits. Like everything that they know, everything I know about circuits and electronics, I learned from doing it with them. And at this point, there's stuff Max, I still know some things he doesn't, just because I've watched something and I processed it, but there's things that Max knows that I don't. Like he'll explain something and I'm like, oh, like he made a circuit yesterday that was like, it was like this little loop, and it had a bunch of diodes going in different, like pointing at each other. And the thing about a diode is it only lets electricity go through in one direction. And if you ever heard of an LED, that's a type of diode. It just emits light, a light emitting diode. So we had this circuit where one of the diodes was pointing this way, and the other one was connected to it pointing that way. So there's no way it would work, right? Because the electricity is gonna stop at one of them, right? But then he turns it, one of them's on, and he pushes the button, the other one turns on, and I was like, how is that working? But he had like other wires hooked up to it. And so he was, and I posted this video on Facebook where he's like explaining to me, there's actually two loops. There's the one loop that goes this way around the one diode, and then another one that goes this way through the other diode. So there's actually two loops created. And I'm like, holy shit, man. Like I just at glance wouldn't have thought that would work, but he totally understood the mechanics of it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I watched that video and it made me think like, okay, his ability to recognize patterns, as Mitch would say, is just off the charts. It's not just like, yes, it's reading, but the reading is like just a result of his understanding, a result of what you guys are doing, with a result of, and like reading is just one facet of it. His ability to put together circuits that actually work and like be able to explain like, oh yeah, well, here's how it's working. I did this, like he's clearly explaining, yeah, here's how it's actually going. It's going through this circuit here. And then there's a second circuit here that allows it to flow through on both sides. So I wouldn't be able to fucking do that. I was like, what?
Last night, there was this transistor he was playing with, and it was like a PNP. Okay, there's two types of transistors, PNP and NPN. And I think it stands for negative positive. It's the N and the P, right? And he goes, and I was like, so I said, this one's a PNP. And I was like, but the other ones you have are NPNs. I'm like, what's the difference? Like, and he goes, well, the P is positive, the N is negative, right? and it has to do with, and that means like positive, negative, atoms, right? Or particles. And I was like, okay, but why? I was like, but how does that work? Like, why is it called that? And he goes, Cameron, I don't have time right now. I'm focused. I don't have time to explain to you everything about atoms.
Oh, shit.
Because he was like trying to do something. I'm over here going like, what does it say MPN? Like, why are they? He's like, I don't have time to explain to you everything about atoms right now.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
He's like, I'm not going to go into all that.
Where do you see, just because you spend time with him every single day, where do you see him being able to take this, let's say in the next year? Like if you could just kind of imagine it, both him and Seneca, and then with them like collaborating, and now with Caius, what do you see happening in kind of the near distant future with what they're going to be able to do?
I mean, I can't really say over a year like what that looks like, because it's just I don't think I can predict that. Because I mean, he's 5.5, she's 3.5, and there's just so far. Oh, we went to this store yesterday. Okay, so we were gonna go pick up that ATV, right? That got repaired. And I was like, Max, and Katie had taken Seneca to a farm to pick up some meat or something, or milk or something. And so Max was with me, and I was like, let's go to town and pick up that ATV, and then we'll get lunch. And so he goes, well, can we stop by this one store that's here in our town? And he's like, I want to get some crystals, because like it's like this kind of like woman's sort of like, spiritual, not really spiritual, but just kind of like you go in there and like, this is a store for women, and they sell like gemstones and crystals just part it like at the front, right? So he likes to go in there, and they also in the back, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
In the back, they have that like water thing where you like pan for minerals, you buy the bag, and so he likes to do that too, but he wanted to go and buy some. And anyways, I was like, well, I said, here's the thing. I said, I'm not going to buy you any of those gems or crystals, because we have bought many of those over the years, like probably 1,000 of them. I don't even know how many, like hundreds at least. Right. And I'm like, but we still don't have any of them. Like they just get lost very easily. Okay. So I don't agree. Like if there's something else more practical that you want, we can do that. I said, but these things, they just get thrown away. It's really just a waste of money. And he was like, well, if I have my own money, then I can buy it. And I was like, well, if you have your own money, I'm not going to control what you buy. Like, as long as it's not something that's harmful, obviously, I'm not going to control it. He goes, and he starts like searching the house to find his wallet. And he finds his wallet, and he's got like $70 in there. Okay. Which he had a $50 bill in there. And I'm like, where'd you get that 50? And he goes, from your wallet. So he had at some point taken a $50 bill out of my wallet. I was like, okay, whatever, I'll let it go. So that was kind of funny. Right. And so he's got like $70. He's got like yeah, right. Probably actually just something I bought from him.
Did you explain that to him of how it's like unacceptable to just take money from people? Or
well, he knows that. Like he's not going to do that with somebody else. Right.
Okay.
It was just he found money in my wallet and whatever. So it wasn't a big thing. And what was I going to say? So anyways, he's like, so I have money, so we can go there. I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah, we'll go by there on our way back. Right. And we got there, once we did all our stuff, we went there, and he's looking at all the crystals. Right. And so the little gems, there's like quartz and, amethyst and kyanite, and like just all these tons of them, right? Carnelian. And they have the prices labeled. Right. And he's looking at his money. So he's like looking at his wallet, and he's got like a couple $5 bills, a 50 and so forth. And he's like, okay. So he gets like a $3 one, and then he gets a $2 one. He goes, okay, so that'll be one of my fives. And he puts it in my hand. He goes, okay. And he's trying to buy them based on the bills that he has. You see what I mean? So that it like matches up to the amount that he has. And then so finally he puts them all on the counter, or we put them on the counter. He's like, okay, I got everything I wanted. The woman starts ringing it up, and it comes out to be like $69.28 or something, right? And he's looking at it, right? And he's got his wallet there, and he's like trying to think about how much to give her, right? And he's like, well, I don't have that amount, right? And I was like, what's the next number? What's the next whole number or dollar amount above that? And he was like, 70. And then I was like, right. And he goes, okay. So he's looking through his thing, and he gives her a 50, and he goes, hold on. I'm just looking through my bills. I'm trying to find a 20. Right. So I'm not telling him you need a 50 and a 20. I'm just saying, what's the next number that you need? And then you can get some change back, right? She'll give you a little change. So then he's looking. And so he's doing all that in his head. He knows how much it costs, everything. Right. And then she goes, she's like, oh, how old are you? He goes, 5. And they were both like, wow, you're really smart for a 5-year-old. So he's like constantly hearing that. But why, what I really want to impulse people with to help them understand is like, it's really normal. It's like, this is what a 5-year-old should be able to do. All of that stuff, because it's just based on being very specific with the vocabulary. Like if you teach them the numbers and the letters, and you start teaching them words, and they're integrated physically in the way where they actually are processing it. It's not just memorization. You can build up this vocabulary so specifically that they can understand things at a much younger age than you think. Yeah. And so he's not just this random little genius kid. And that was what was so cool watching Seneca last night, because she's 3.5 and she's sitting there reading that whole book to herself. And she's going like this. It's not based on the pictures. It's not based on remembering what it said, because when she gets to a word she doesn't recognize, which was just that one word, it was the word get, G-E-T. And I'm not sure why it was that word, but obviously we'll do the technotutor on it. But that was the only word where and I think it was just a book she hadn't read before. So we hadn't integrated that word, whatever it was. So my point being that, why would I explain that she couldn't recognize a word? Because I'm showing you that it wasn't based on her just memorizing what we had read to her. Do you see what I'm saying? She's going through word by word and she's like, what is this one? What is that word? Right. And it's not based on sounding it out. It's not based on phonics, like direct. So every other word she was just reading, bam, 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 bam. And then we'll integrate that one.
Yeah.
Right. So this is not they're just happen to be really smart. This is a replicatable point. And it's like I told somebody, I don't say this to make it seem like it's complicated, because it's not, but it's like an engineering approach. Engineering from the perspective of you're doing it on purpose. You're creating it that way.
You're directing it.
You don't have to be a super fucking genius to do it. But at the same time, what does it mean to be a super fucking genius? Like, think about it. Just think about it. Like, step outside of the technotutor world for a moment, okay? Still, you have common sense. And you guys, let's just say you're being objective. Hold on. No. I mean, you still have common sense in this moment, but you're not a technotutor distributor. Like, you're just looking at it objectively, right? And you're not fanatical about some bullshit of like, well, they have to do this, or they have to, just looking at it objectively, right?
Okay.
And then you look at our kids and you see the levels that they're at. And then, like, you are honest about it. We educate them completely at home. We do it all ourselves. Okay. Wouldn't you look at Katie and I and be like, those people are geniuses?
Oh, for sure. 100%. Yeah.
Because of what we're able to create.
Isn't that what?
Does that make sense?
Parents say that all the time anyway.
But it's not because, but my point is, it's not because you know my fucking IQ.
Right.
It's because of what you can produce.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you know what Einstein's IQ was? You don't. You just know what he produced. Most people don't understand that.
Right.
What I'm saying is, as a parent, you can be a genius. If you use the right tools and you support your children effectively, you will produce something. People will look at that and go like, wow, you are so fucking smart. You're amazing. And it's like, I mean, I'm just normal.
Well, we could have a world of geniuses. Like, we could have an entire planet full of geniuses if everyone would direct themselves, right? And direct themselves so that they can direct their environment in the way that you're saying. Like, that's really what's happening right now. The point that you brought up before of Bernard talking about how, what we've created is based on fear. It's the fear that the mother has, the fear that, how am I going to pay my rent? All these fears that have created this system that we're all participating in, that's leading us to this point where we have to now face this like fear collectively together of what we've created, right? And so we're going to have to direct that within ourselves of what are we participating in each individually, and then also directing our environment in order to create like the environment that is actually best. Because the reason why our environment's not best is because we're not directing anything collectively, and it's really cool. I keep listening over and over and over to the death, time, and I forget what other words are in there. But that audio from Bernard, death,
Yeah.
time, conflict.
Can you find it, Christine? Maybe you can post it in the self-perfected chat.
Which video?
Conflict.
Death,
that's it, yeah.
conflict, words, and time.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Is it
death,
words?
conflict.
Oh, yeah. We were
word-
just listening to that.
words,
I believe
maybe.
so,
Yeah. But anyway, it's such a good audio. Like it opens up, and within the first, I don't know, first 30 seconds or so, it's already just like, bam, whoa. But what's great about it is he's talking about having a world where we can all be agreeable. That example that you gave, it was a great example of where, and I don't mean agreeable in the sense of like, just letting, whatever happens.
Oh, wear a mask, fine.
Yeah, I'm so agreeable. but that point that you'd made of, if someone were to steal, it'd be like somebody whipping their dick out, and you're like, what are you doing? What's going on here? Why are you doing that? You don't have to post it here, Christine. We know that the audio. Post it in the chat.
I did. Relax.
How dare you question the sea god?
No, I wanted to show you so you guys know exactly what it's called. Death,
Okay.
God, words, conflict,
There's too many
Is
words.
the word
And
time in it?
Time?
and time. Time's a lot.
Okay.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
realize the word was in there.
Yeah, that
Okay,
audio
cool.
is so good.
Does he talk about in that one the point about just being a good person and how that's not enough?
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
he
yeah.
does. Okay. I
That's
thought
the
he
one.
makes that point in that one.
Yeah. And what's really cool about it is he talks about having a relationship agreement with the world. Basically, that point of where everyone's looking at you like, why are you whipping your dick out for stealing or something like that? We would have a collective relationship agreement with each other, all of us as society. But in order to do that, we have to first get this one point of having a relationship agreement with ourselves and actually showing up for that, and like showing ourselves that we can trust ourselves. That's really what it comes down to, which is the whole point of this NPC programming. We're not directing 99.999% of our day. That is not being directed by us. Even, okay, this is specifically for those who are in the group or a distributor. You're walking this process, but even as you walk your process, at least starting out, the only time that you're actually doing the process is when you're actually making the corrections, right? And generally speaking,
Yeah, it's not when you're doing the writing.
exactly.
It's when you're actually living the correction.
Exactly. And so for most people, it's like they're sitting down, they're thinking about their process as they're writing and everything. And they're like, yeah, I'm like, I feel this, I feel that way. But they're not even like throughout their day, when the moment comes up, they're not actually making the correction. And the reason why that's significant is because each moment that you don't make that correction prolongs the time that you have to get to the point where you're on the other side of this process, where you're not participating in all the bullshit that you want to stop yourself. Like, you're aware of it. You're like, oh yeah, this is all the stuff I want to be past. But each moment that you don't do that in the action and decision in your daily life is prolonging that moment, and life still goes on. That's the important key there. Life still goes on. And that's huge. That's huge. Because it's not like, oh, it's inevitable, it's just going to happen with time. No, life is going on, and you're either walking or you're not. Like, imagine you go on a trail, you're going to go for a hike. And it's like, oh, this is a 3-hour hike. And you start walking, and then like 10 minutes into it, you stop walking. And then you're like, 3 hours later, you're still in the same spot. You're like, oh, this was supposed to be a 3-hour hike. The sun's coming down. I'm still here on this trail. What's going on? Like, I started the hike, and it's been 3 hours, and I'm not done yet. How much longer is this going to take? Well, you got to keep walking. Time still goes on.
And imagine that person also says life is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, imagine
then-
a person will use that as the excuse of why they don't have to hold themselves accountable, because life is a journey. Meanwhile, they're literally just staying in the same spot.
Yeah.
It's the fucking truth.
Yeah. And then the other really cool thing that I really love about that audio is there's a moment where somebody who's listening is like, I guess she's writing down something that like a thought that just came up. And Bernard's like, yeah, catch it. Like catch them all. You know, like in the moment, you got these thoughts because they'll just escape. And then you have to deal with it later when it comes back up to the surface. That's when you can deal with it again, unless you catch it now. And it's been really cool just to think of that in terms of like, I've been thinking about the story of Pandora's box. You know, Pandora's box. And, you know, the way it was told to me was Pandora, she's super curious. She gets this box and she's not supposed to open it. She opens it and out comes spilling disease, starvation, poverty, everything that is wrong with the world. And so it's like, we blame Pandora, or at least the ancient Greeks or whatever. We're blaming Pandora for everything that's wrong with the world, right? And in the story, she's like trying to catch all the things that come out, and she's not able to do it, and she's not able to keep them in the box. And the only thing that she does catch when she closes the lid is hope. Like that's such bullshit, right? Like
imagine somebody hearing that and being like, that's all we can do is we can just hope. And
we
it's
can
like,
just hope. We just hope that starvation and disease.
it's like, how much of your life do you actually live based on that though? Like, well, I'm hungry. Well, I'm just going to hope food's going to arrive. And it's like, that's not how it works. Like if you don't get your fucking DoorDash within 30 minutes, you're on there on customer service going, what the fuck's going on? You're not like, well, I hope it just comes eventually. No.
And you know what else? You know what else within that hope is part of the mathematics with which you make your decisions, as far as like in the grand scheme of things. That's part of the NPC. And it's like, it's inserted in there. And it's like, oh, got to balance the equation now. And so the balance of the equation is we put in hope. We do nothing about like the starvation and all that shit. Like, you know, but in relation to who we are and what we're doing, as far as us walking this process, that Pandora's box is a really cool analogy for you have to catch all these things before they go out into the world. And the real Pandora's box is you, like all the memories that you hold, the emotions. Oh, man, Kian made this super awesome point. Mitch, you were there on the support call.
Oh yeah.
Kian and I were just kind of like going back and forth on I don't even know what we were talking about. Do you remember, Mitch?
Well, you can talk about the part about getting memories into words.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it was about. We're just talking about the importance of writing and with TechnoTutor when you have that. Yeah.
So somebody had brought up this point, right? And I forget the exact context of it, but Kian made this really awesome realization of like, oh, that's what it was. Okay, that's what it was. You know that phrase, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? And people like, they want to hold on to that. Like, yeah, but a picture's worth 1,000 words. And like, it's like, you know, why do we have to put things into words when we can have pictures? And it just like dawned on us, whenever somebody says that, they're being super selfish, actually, because they want to have their own unique perspective of this thing. It's like when you go to a museum and you look at it, a picture or an image or whatever, right? One person can have one experience with it and the other person is going to have a completely different experience. But when you put it into words, if you exclaim something in words that have specific definitions, it's like you have to share it in the same value. Otherwise you're miscommunicating, right? And so it's really cool because that's the same thing that memories are. Memories are, you have this unique, specific, ego-driven experience with your own memories that nobody else can possibly understand, right? And so it makes you special. It makes you special. And so what's amazing about what we're doing is we're putting things into words. And by putting things into words, we can actually comprehend what's going on. We can communicate effectively. We can work together. Oh man, it's so cool because like now I'm thinking of the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel is like within all of us, where the story of the Tower of Babel is just basically a bunch of people got together. They were going to build a tower to heaven. Midway through, God strikes them with different languages. They can't understand each other. They can't communicate effectively. They can't cooperate any longer, right? Well, within us ourselves is a
brick wall,
going on,
perhaps,
where we can't even communicate with our own selves. What were you
I
saying?
said a brick wall, perhaps.
A brick wall. Well, yeah. I mean, that I never realized how great that analogy is until more recently. More and more, like I think over the last year is like as I've developed how great that analogy is, because words literally are structure. And
I mean, look at our fucking society.
Yeah.
And how everything is starting to crumble because the vocabulary is not aligned effectively.
It's crazy. It's crazy, right? And so, okay.
And what is it? And what is it that the algorithms are constantly trying to monitor and suppress?
Your speech, the words that you use, your language. Okay. To go back to this one point though, of like the Tower of Babel within all of us, we can't even understand our own memories. Like they just have like some emotional value. But when you put the words to them and doing this process, right, then we're able to actually like understand what the fuck is going on within us. And we can clearly, clearly structure what's going on within us so that we can use what's best and, stop participating in what's not best.
And if somebody had used words effectively in the beginning, you wouldn't have all these problems.
Right.
Like I was talking to someone recently and they were saying how when they were growing up, their father would tape their hands to the steering wheel of the tractor so that they would remember to keep their hands on the wheel. Right. And I was just looking at that point. Wait, because it's hands? Like, I don't remember if it was both.
That does not seem safe.
It was like 3 hands. Well, especially on my tractor, because it has the speed, the shuttle shift where you have like, you literally have to like have another lever. So maybe it was one hand. I don't know. But it's like, think about that. It's like, instead of just explaining to the person why it's important and letting them practice and continue to explain, instead, we'll just try to force the child to do it. It's like, I remember one time, I might've talked about this before, but we were driving ATVs on the trails at our property. And Seneca was on her little ATV. She had a little 90 cc gas powered ATV. And she was in front of me and she was just like looking back at me. And I was trying to tell her, obviously it was very loud. I was like, Seneca, make sure you keep looking forward so you know where you're going. Cause I was watching her drive towards the side of the trail. And she like went into a branch. She didn't get hurt, but obviously she didn't enjoy the experience of it. And so I got off the ATV and I was like, hey, do you know, and obviously after she calmed down, because she was crying, right? And I was like, do you know why that happened? And then she was like, well, I ran into this branch. And I was like, well, right, but do you understand why? And she didn't. And I said, the problem is what you're doing is when you're driving, you're looking back at me for too long. It doesn't mean you can't ever look back. I said, but if you're constantly looking back, you're not seeing what's coming up and the trails turn. And you might have to turn, or there might be a branch in the way, you need to go around it. So if you want to look back at me, I like to look back at you guys or look back at Max or whatever. I said, just do a quick glance like that. Like you're riding, you see what's coming. Okay, nothing's coming. I look back real quick and then I keep going, right? And she was like this. I was like, yeah, like that. She gets on her ATV and she starts driving in front of me and she's going like, she's like, she keeps doing it. Like she's practicing what I explained to her, but I explained to her as much as I could so she would understand.
Yeah.
An alternative could have been like, Seneca, you keep your eyes looking forward always. You don't look back. That's why you're going to get hurt. That's what like my parents might've done.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, fuck, I can never look back. Like what? Like that isn't, I don't do that. That's not how I drive it. I'm driving. I look back at Max. I'm like, hey buddy. And I keep driving, but I'm also aware of where I'm at on the trail. Like I'm not about to go around a turn with like a branch in the way and go like, oh, like that doesn't make sense. Like I'm aware, but I know they're not aware yet of all of that, or she wasn't. Yeah. So it's like helping her understand like, oh, you can do this, you can do that. Like with the tractor, when I'm driving it, sometimes they would like want to run in front of the tractor. And I'm like, I explained to them, guys, you really can't do that because I can't see you. right? And this tractor is very big. Look at what it can do, right? It would hurt your body. It could possibly kill you if you went under it. So you can't run in front of the tractor or be really close to it when I'm driving because it's very loud and I may not see it, you behind me when I'm backing up. You may be so close I can't see you, right? So you have to be aware, right? So explain that stuff instead of being like, when that tractor's on, you stay inside. Do you know what I mean? Like that would be the normal approach because it's like, well, they're not going to understand me explaining all of that. Why not? Why don't they understand you explaining all of it? Because if you look at the brick wall, what I always am looking at with my kids is, where's the missing bricks? Because to me, like if you came over, Drake, I don't probably have to explain to you, don't run in front of the tractor when I'm driving it. Right? Because you understand about big machines, you understand about impact and momentum, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with them, they don't know all that stuff. So if I'm going to make sure they understand not to run in front of the tractor without using fear, which would have a consequence later. Because if the fear is, if I'm saying, if you're in front of that, if you're outside and when I'm driving the tractor, you need to be inside, otherwise you could get killed. Like then they might have a fear of tractors, or might have a fear of, it might get associated with some other thing, like some fear of some kind of machinery or something, or anytime they hear a tractor, they might freak out or what. Because I'm trying to use fear instead of explanation. So I'm always looking at, okay, where is the gaps in their brick wall? Let me explain those points. And then once those gaps are filled in, now I can explain to you the concept. And I was just looking, Christine put in the chat, somebody had asked a question. Can you read that question, Christine? You don't have to say who it was.
Yeah, we had just watched the video of Max explaining the circuit. Confused. Cameron Cope, does Max offer tutoring services?
Right. And it ties into the point because obviously they might have been kind of joking in the sense of, does he offer tutoring services? Maybe not. But what is tutoring? Like if you're a really effective tutor, like as effective as you can be in tutoring itself without Technotutor, let's say, right? The most effective tutor is the one who identifies where are those bricks in that person's brick wall, meaning that's like their total vocabulary, their total understanding. Like the sum total of that brick wall of all those bricks, which are words, is how you understand things, how you process information. And what the tutor does is when they're trying to explain a concept, they can first identify what are the words that this person is missing, which all then represent concepts. So like if you're watching a video of Max explaining the circuit with diodes, notice, what did I do when I explained that story? I explained to you the key concepts about what a diode is for you to understand the point of my story. Because if I just said diode and I didn't explain to you, you wouldn't even understand why it would matter that they're pointing in different directions. So I knew I had to explain that context at least first. And depending on a person's ability to process, they're either going to even hear that part or not.
Yeah, they may not even know what a circuit is.
Right. And so I mean, I can't in a podcast go into all the context, but you'll notice when I tell stories, I spend a lot of time in the beginning just giving all kinds of context so that it reduces as much confusion as possible for the person. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I want to make sure that you understand the point of what I'm saying. Yeah. So the whole point of tutoring, like, it's like, instead of, and I know the person was probably being a little bit tongue in cheek about, or, facetious about Max offering tutoring services, but like, let's pretend like a person was serious, like, hey, Max should tutor me, or can he tutor people in that? And it's like, you just developed the vocabulary. And so you don't need a tutor. And I'm saying this for those who wouldn't understand this point. You don't need a tutor. Like, I'm not tutoring Max in electronics. Does that make sense? It's more like we're learning together. There is a lot of context I have, he doesn't. But sometimes my context is wrong. So I'm having to unlearn some things. Like something I heard about a circuit. Like when I first heard the word diode, I had an association. It was a very vague thing of what that was. And then as I start to learn, oh, it only lets electricity go in one direction. That's actually what a diode is. Okay, I get it. I understand now. Like when you hear the word transformer, okay, I'm not talking about yeah. They don't make that sound. That's more like Ed 209 from RoboCop.
Okay.
No, but when you in terms of electricity, what do you think of when I say transformer?
Those things on the outside of the street that's like big,
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah, the big green thing.
and they make
Yeah.
noise or something, or they blow up sometimes, or
They blow up. Yeah.
But actually, what it does is it converts one type of a form of electricity to another. It goes from AC to DC. And then someone says, "What the fuck is AC? What is DC?" You have to understand the
band.
context of that.
Yeah, band.
That's
It is a band. Yeah, exactly. Right. See, that's people's association of that word, AC and DC.
Fine.
It's like just a band. What the fuck does it? You know, that's why they have the lightning bolt and the symbol of AC/DC. Right?
That's so
Ah.
clever.
So smart, right?
Sounds like a conspiracy theory.
But anyways, my point is
I
the
just
context
learned
about
that
tutoring.
What I knew, Transformers. Sorry.
Somehow Transformers and AC/DC have something to do with it. But it's just like you don't need a tutor.
Mhm.
It's not that tutors are bad. It's not that you can't use a tutor. But what I'm saying is you don't want to go like within myself. If I want to learn something, the first thing is I need a tutor. Because usually that's coming from a lack of confidence. Because I never think I need someone to tutor me. I always think of it more as I'm going to try to figure out as much as I can. And then if there's something that really doesn't make sense, I'm going to go ask somebody who knows. So like I have this guy who is really cool and he helps me with things around the property that I can't do myself. Like I'm getting an AC unit installed in the barn or the shop, and it's going to have heating and it's going to be running on natural gas. And so he's going to help me put a gas line from the main part of the house all the way out to the barn to go into the heating unit. And I'm like, it's not that I don't think I could theoretically do it if I learned enough, but it's something where I just want it done. And the amount of time for me to learn that doesn't make sense. But I wanted to make a workbench in my barn to be able to build stuff on, a big workbench. And I got stuck on the point of which freaking type of plywood should I use? And it just wasn't clear. I did all this searching online and it was just like not clear. Should I use this kind? Should I not? This guy, I just asked him, I was like, hey, I want to make this bench. What do you think about that? He's like, that's cool. I'm like, what kind of plywood would you use for that? Because I keep seeing all these different things. He's like, oh, you just use this kind. And here, and I was like, well, why? He's like, oh, because of this and this. I'm like, all right, cool. So he's not tutoring me. You see the difference? I'm not like, day one, I don't know anything about woodworking. Let me go find a person who's going to tutor me. Because the thing is, that's so dependent upon them directing the whole process.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Instead
And
of
it's
you
like-
directing it.
Like, so I'm saying I'm not tutoring my kids in math. Like, think about this. Here's what's really fascinating. I've probably talked to Max about prime numbers maybe like a couple times. And lately he's been like, he'll be like, Cameron, 8 is prime. And I'm like, why? Or it's not prime rather. And I'm like, why? And he goes, because it has 4 factors, 1, 8, 2, and 4. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, what about 17? And he'll sit there for a while and he'll be like, it's like, I can't think of any factors that go into 17. Right. And then I'm like, okay, but is it that you can't think of any, or do you know for sure? How can you know for sure? So then we talk about the point of every whole number that's less than 17, you could actually just check. And if you had to, you could use a calculator. Or if you're good at the point, if you've learned and you can do the division, you can check. So but what it was he was interested in math because he knows the numbers. And I would just randomly get videos, like people explaining prime numbers. And I would get like 3 different ones and I would just put them on the computer and be like, hey, I got you some new videos today. And then when he's like at home and he's not doing something specifically, he'll go and he'll watch some of the videos that I downloaded. So he's not even being tutored. He's like watching a video about it. And he's like, I want to know about that. And so then he'll start talking about it. So I'll go get another video for him. Do you see the difference? And it's not necessarily a person giving you a lesson on it. It's like they're talking about it. Sometimes it is about getting a lesson. So the same thing with electronics. Like I didn't go get a tutor. I just started watching videos about someone explaining stuff that was way the fuck over my head. And I'm like, okay, I got some missing bricks. What are the points that I'm missing? Okay, I didn't understand what he meant by this. What he meant by that. What he meant by that. And I would go back to the very basic points that I could. And I would start watching the videos and I would show them to Max. And I remember when he was like 4, I was giving him videos on like a series on how does resistance work? How does voltage work? How does a circuit work? All the basic points to the point where he's at now. So he understands all that stuff. So it's like, if Max can do it and he's not being tutored, then why can't anyone do it themselves? As long as they're able to go and fill in the missing bricks of their vocabulary. And if you're not willing to do that, the tutor's not really going to help you. And like, I remember one time, a long time ago, I took guitar lessons and I fucking hated it. And I didn't want to do the stuff the guy told me to do. And it might've been useful for me to do it, but I would show up and I would like never have practiced. This is when I was an adult. And I could tell the guy was just like, huh. And it was like typical, like probably that was his experience the whole time. And I'm like, I'm choosing to do this and I don't even want to do it. But I liked playing the guitar. And if it was just me, I'd look up videos and stuff. And I'm like, okay, the problem is I'm relying on this guy to teach me instead of me learning and then asking questions. And it's not to say that you can't have someone who's teaching you and mentoring you. But the problem is it was coming from a point of I'm giving up all my personal responsibility of it. And you just tell me what to do. But then I didn't want to be just told what to do. You see what I mean? I wanted to have some direction over it. And so that's the balance that you have to find. The best person to teach the kid is the parent, because you have a relationship. And it's funny because Drake, you've done tutoring. I know Christine's done tutoring. I've done tutoring. Isn't it like the parents thinking they're the last person that can teach the kid?
Yeah.
Isn't that
100%.
interesting? But really, like with Max, it's like, I don't want anyone else influencing him because they're going to say some stupid shit.
Yeah.
And they're not going to explain the context. Like Katie and I are the best people to teach our kids.
Yeah.
Not because we're better than everybody else. Primarily, that's not the reason why. I'm saying it's because we know the kids. We understand them. We know who they are. We know what they don't understand. We know what they do. We know what things they like and don't like and so forth.
Yeah.
A teacher, the tutor, that's the problem with the tutors. Like they don't know any of that about you. So they're just trying to go on the track of, well, I think this is a way to teach you, but they may not interest you at all, what they're talking
Yeah.
about.
Also, parents have become so detached from their own children. You know, they put them in daycares, they put them in schools. They don't spend as much time with them as like you're spending all day with your kids or your kids. Like they're never
A large percentage. Yeah.
Yeah. They're never with someone else who's like a teacher who's learning about your kid and then also doesn't know what happens at home or whatever. And then you don't know what they've learned at school or whatever. Like that's what's happening to a lot of parents, where they're becoming so disconnected from their own children. Their children are becoming disconnected from them. They don't understand each other. They feel like they can't really communicate effectively, even outside of just tutoring or academics or whatever. They are not communicating effectively. And that is a huge breakdown, because who doesn't want to communicate effectively with their own children or with their own family? Like, you know, that's not what people are like wanting, you know, but then they wonder, why is my family like so terrible? Like, why do we not?
But that's a
love each
good
other?
point of like, you're saying, why wouldn't they want to communicate effectively? And the reality is, you know, like, look at your relationship with Christine. It's like, why wouldn't you want to communicate really effectively with your partner? But most people
Yeah.
are thinking, well, I don't really like my partner. Actually, they're in their self-honesty, they're not thinking that, but that's their self-honesty. And it's like, they're just fitting a point in my life that I'm supposed to do. It's like an NPC kind of approach to things. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to
Also-
have a partner, or I'm not supposed to. It depends on the context of what programming the
Also,
person's
a
following.
lot of people, when they talk to their partner, it's like they feel like they're fighting their partner. Like, you know, where it's like they're constantly attacking each other because they're trying to like pull each other down to the same point or something like that, where they're not communicating effectively. And so it hurts them, you know, and I think that's really relevant to what we're talking about here today, as far as, you know, if we actually want to make a difference in the world, if you actually want to make a difference in the world, you listening to this,
or in your own
that
fucking
is-
life.
Yeah.
Like this
That's
is the
what I'm
point. We'll,
saying.
we'll wrap it up on this point, but it's like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you want to have an amazing relationship? And
Yeah.
a person, it's not a rhetorical question, but it kind of is. To us, knowing what this is like to have the stability that we've been talking about, it's like, why wouldn't you want that? The only reason you wouldn't is because you don't even know it's possible. It's like, why wouldn't you want your 5-year-old to be a genius? Imagine there's people who are like, well, wow, you got one of those kids. Oh man, you must have your hands full. I'm like, what? No, like we wanted him to be this way. We made it so that he's really smart and he can fucking talk and question us and all this stuff. Like, that's not a problem. But people are thinking, why would you want that? I'm like, why wouldn't you? Because they don't even have any frame of reference. But again, they can't think about that. It's like, I want the cappuccino. Oh, there's the tank. Their mind can't even go there because it's like, I have too much fear.
Yeah.
Right. So this is really about removing that fear so you can have a stability you've never experienced before. It goes way beyond all the having that hot wife and the Lamborghini. You can have all that stuff if you want it, But that in itself isn't going to bring you the happiness that you're looking for. It's the stability of having unity within your relationships and real intimacy and real principles and that like actual community that people want. That's what you can get, right? Like Drake and Christine, you guys are coming to visit soon, right?
Yes.
Relatively. Like I'm so looking forward to that. You know,
Right.
I see you every week, but I'm like, it's not the same as like hanging out, you know?
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
Hey, I realized that
Absolutely.
third point about the chickens. So shout
What
out
was
to
it?
anyone who was here from the beginning. So here's the third benefit again, the chickens, right? This is me on an even deeper level going from NPC to actually taking responsibility, right? Because it's like when you know where your food comes from and you have that self-sustainability and you can just take responsibility for yet another thing in your life, like it forces you to level up. There's part of me that's like, I don't want those damn chickens, but Jessica wants them. I'm like, you know what? It's gonna be great, and so I'm just gonna make it be great. And so that's the
It'll
third.
be fun. And then, hey, when your chickens get bigger, we got a bunch of chickens. We can like maybe they can like FaceTime or something. You know, so.
Yeah.
Because then we got to worry about
ship our
socialization.
rooster
Because
to
I know
you.
you're going to homeschool your chickens, right?
And then you can ship your rooster here for like a week, and then they can like impregnate all the chickens.
Like a
and then
little
ship them
orgy,
back.
chicken orgy. Yeah,
Yeah, basically.
that'd be cool. Lucky guy. I got 3 roosters, by the way. Well, actually, I
Oh,
might have
shit.
more than that. I think I have a Cornish, but he'll probably die in 6 weeks. So
I heard
if
about
I don't
that.
slaughter him, he'll die. Like they just like have a heart attack. It's crazy. I'm definitely not buying Cornish again. It's insane.
Oh wow. Wait, how,
Okay.
how
It's
soon
the
do you
one we
have
call
to-
Fatty. It's like the one that's like 3 times as big as all the others. I'm like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
something
yeah.
wrong with these genetics of these chickens, man. It's fucked.
How soon do you have to
Okay,
murder him?
I don't
I
know the
gotta
exact
jump,
number.
but you guys
I know
can
it
wrap
makes
it
you
up.
gotta go. We'll
All right,
wrap it
all
up on this.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Join the
we'll
group,
talk about
everyone.
chickens next time.
Join the
Chickens.
All
Like,
right.
comment,
Comment,
subscribe.
subscribe.
Subscribe. All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Sigad.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.